Hello and welcome to my tutorial on setting up source control for your Unreal Engine 5 or any Unreal Engine version for that matter, so that you can work as a team or you can just save stuff to the cloud in case you stuff something up locally. So let's get to it. First of all, you need to familiarize yourself with a site called GitHub. So what we'll be using is something called Git, and it is a source control tool that you can download to your machine and save things as you're doing your work. GitHub is essentially the place that you will push your content to in the cloud. Now, I've been using GitHub for a very long time. The first thing you'd want to do is you'd want to go and create a GitHub account. And this can be done by pressing the sign up button. Just mind that this UI might change over time. So it's got this little cute thing here. You enter your email address. I already have an account, so I'm just going to create a new one. Cool. Create a strong password. Continue, and my username is going to be testing GitHub tutorial. Cool. I would not like to receive product updates. I will do a puzzle for them, I guess. There we go. And there we go. I am not a robot. So, they've sent me a email link. We're just going to verify that. In your email, you'll see there is a code copied. You copy that in, and there you go. It's just me. Continue. Don't select any of these things. Just continue through, and just continue for free, because otherwise you have to pay. Fantastic. And there you go. So now the next thing you'd want to do is you want to go in to you'll want to go into Google and search for Git. This is the local tool, like I said earlier. You're going to download it and you are going to install it. Now, I'm not going to go through all these steps because I've done so. Just along the installation, there's going to be a lot of options. Just press continue, 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 continue. And then you're done. Once you're done, you are going to be able to open up your command prompt or whatever tool it is you want. And you should be able to go Git, and you'll see that it's installed because you're getting a bunch of commands that you can use. Now, the last thing I'd like you guys to know is something called Visual Studio Code. Now, Visual Studio Code is quite useful because you can actually write all the code, the C++ code or any code for that matter, within for Unreal Engine within this little IDE, and it's completely free. So you'll download this as well, and you'll install it. So once you have done installing that, you will be able to open up Visual Studio Code, and you will see something like this. So this is an existing project that I have, and I'm going to set up something new for you guys now. Okay, so let's start. We want to create a simple Unreal project, and we want to push that up to GitHub for other people to also use. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to go and create a repository. I will call this testing or my first repository. Now, a repository is essentially just a bucket for your code. You don't have to worry too much about that right now, but what we're essentially doing is we're creating one big folder for our code, and everything that you push to this, every time you commit stuff or you push new code, it's actually going to save that version. So when you make a mistake, you can go back to an earlier version quite simply. We're going to leave all this as default, so you can choose whether you want it public or private. Private is also free, so if you want to work on stuff and you don't want people to know about it, you can do that. Okay. Now we've created our repository. Don't be scared by this. I know it looks like a lot of information, but it's actually quite simple. So all you're going to do here is you are going to copy this. You're going to open up your Visual Studio Code. We are going to go into open a folder here. So we're going to now, on our machine, going to look for a nice place where we actually want to do our development. For now, I have an Unreal folder and I'll select this because this is where I do all my Unreal work. Once I have selected this folder, it's going to ask you to trust. Just say yes, and you will then open the terminal, which then opens something at the bottom here. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to type the following: git clone, and then the link that's in here, the SSH one. It doesn't really matter, but I use the SSH one. Okay, or is that the HTTPS? Sorry, I'm using the HTTPS one. Okay, once I've done that, you will see that it has cloned my project, and within my folder here there should be a my first repository, which is the one that we've created. What we'll do now is we will go in and we will open that folder, and there you go, you have a empty repository. Now, so what we're going to do is we are going to add a file to test if this works. We're going to create a new file. We're going to call this readme.md. MD is a markup language. It's not only used by Git, it's used by various platforms. And it's just a markup language. So what we're going to do is I'm going to say hello world, and then in here you will see this source control section. You will say my first commit this. You will then push this up, so push, so in this ... push, you don't have permissions. Okay, cool. So now this is a good point. So now the next thing you'd want to do is sign in to your new repository. Sign into GitHub, should pop up. You're going to say authorize Visual Studio Code and open. Okay, so now I should be signed in. There you can see testing, and then I can push. I should have permissions. So I had to go and figure out why it wasn't working, hence the pause there. So what's interesting is I was signed in with a different account. So you might encounter this same problem. That's why I'm not cutting it from this video. I'd like to show you what to do if you've been working on a student machine or anything like that where there was a GitHub account already installed. So the first thing you'd want to do is you want to go and open up Control Panel. So that is done by pressing that. You will press User Accounts, press Credential Manager, and then Windows Credentials. What you'll see most likely is a GitHub account right here, and we will simply just remove it. Fantastic. So I'm just quickly going to create that README file again, which you should have done in the previous step. Hello world. Okay, and then I'm going to go here and commit it. So hello world, we can call this whatever we want. Just going to restart my Visual Studio Code because it's in a hanging state. Hello world, commit. Okay, and then I'm going to sync my changes. Now it's going to ask me this time that I need to sign in, which I'm going to do now. It should have worked, and there we go. So our changes have synced successfully. Now if I open my GitHub account and I refresh this page, I should be presented with a README. So pat yourself on the back, you've successfully pushed code to the cloud. Now this is all good and well, but we want to use this with Unreal Engine. So what we're going to do now is we are going to create a project opening Unreal Engine. So our Epic Games launcher. Once this is open, we're going to navigate to our Unreal Engine section, and I expect you to have already have the Unreal Engine installed here. If not, you can just install whichever version you like. I'm using the latest one currently, which is 5.1. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to launch this engine. You can also launch it from here. once that's up and running. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is create a project. I'm just going to use this blank games project, enable ray tracing, but that's not important right now. And then what is important is going to your folder that you've just created. You're going to select your folder. We're going to call this my first repository. Okay, and we're going to create this. Now what's going to be really interesting is that in this section here, where you've got this branch looking thing, and it's actually called a branch, you will start seeing files pop up. So there we have a whole bunch of files that's been added, because there's starter content and all sorts of stuff that's been added. Now, what's a little bit tricky, and that's where normal code source control is a bit easier, is that some of these assets are extremely large. And what you'll need is something called Git large file storage. And if I just do a quick Google for that, you will find it here. And you can download it for Windows. I'll also pop this link into the description. Or you can just run this, Git LFS install. We'll quickly run that. Cool. It has been initialized. And now if we look at this instructions, we want to tell Git LFS which files are large files. Okay? And for now, the large ones we have is uassets. So uasset, there we go. Now what you should see is in your folder, Git attributes that says uasset is a large file type. Okay. What you'll also notice is in your repo, you'll also just want to check what the size is of this project, and this is quite large. And the reason this is this large is because there's a bunch of additional stuff that's in here that got generated, and every time you compile, it gets generated, and you don't need that in your source control. So I'm going to talk a little bit about something called Git Ignore, and that is a way of telling Git to ignore some files. I will also link a repository with all this set up for you if you just want to boilerplate and not set this up every single time. We're just going to create a file called Git Ignore. There's other ways of doing this. This is just the easiest for me. We're going to add this, saved. You'll see the number of files dropping here. So let's see, saved. It's under, is it under content? Let's see. It is under my first repository. So my first repository saved. There we go, 289. We will do another one which is intermediate. Okay. Even less files. And then derived data cache we also don't need. Okay. Fantastic. So there's still quite a bit of files in here, and we don't necessarily want to push all of this stuff. The reason is there's a limit to how much you can push to a repository. So what I tend to do is any of the starter content and all that stuff I'll save separately. You can push all of this stuff up, I'll do so now, but I generally exclude like large folders. For instance, if we look at starter content, this can easily be added again to your project, and you don't need this in your repository. So just for the sake of this demonstration, what I'm going to do is I'm going to also add this section, which will then significantly drop the amount of files that we're saving. And you'll see that this is essentially the entire project that we've set up. So we've eliminated all those 400 and something files which we don't need. So what we'll then do is we'll say my initial code commit or Unreal commit. We'll say commit and sync or commit and push. Okay. We are now pushing the code to our main branch, which is sitting in GitHub. Cool. Now if we open GitHub again, we will see that our Unreal code is sitting here. Now, why is this important? So this is important if anything happens on your local machine. Say for instance, I go into my project and I accidentally delete my project file. Now the project is broken. The project is gone. If I close this project, I won't be able to open it again. Even if I go into Epic Games, I've now lost my project. So you'll see project is gone. Now what we can do is we can fix this locally, because now we can see in here that this project file has been deleted, and we can click on that and we can discard those changes, and then my project file is back and I can open my project. Now even if someone goes in and I accidentally delete all of this, so let's just close Visual Studio. I accidentally delete my entire project. My hard drive got corrupted. I can't access my project that I've been working years on anymore. You don't have to worry, because everything is here, and all I have to do is go through the exact same steps that I've done initially, and that is to clone my repository. Again, I will go to my folder, to my Unreal folder, select this, type in git clone with this URL that we used in the very beginning. We'll open up my folder. You'll see there is my first repository, and within this repository I have my, there we go, my project back. So that's the basics of source control. There is a lot more that you can do, but for now this is the most important stuff that you'd want to know, especially if you're working across teams. Yeah, that's it. If there's any interest in this video, I'll be sure to upload more examples of how you can work together as a team, how you can push up large files with LFS that's not U assets by adding them. But yeah, this is what I use for my assets in Blender. This is what I use for my Unreal games. So if you did find this video helpful, please like and subscribe. It really does help me out, especially the fact that this is a new channel. I'd really like to make more content for you, and see you next time.